CCU Orlando, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Unity of Nashville present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 60, Getting Back on Track. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice and I'm the host. And I am here in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hey everybody, my name is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us on the Authentic Spiritual Journey for show 060. So glad that you have joined us on this Monday morning or Tuesday or whatever day you're listening.
I know, we always say that. Yes, we're always glad you join us and it always blesses us. And we love knowing when you share the show on social media, telling your friends about it. What I love best is when people tell their friends and then have conversations about what we're talking about, because the whole show is really having spiritual conversations, and we love to bring in different guests and different perspectives, and we're going to be doing that coming up. I mean, have some amazing guests coming up.
Denise, we have Denise Rosier next. I think it's next show.
Yeah, right. So that'll be a lot of fun.
So that will be good.
And then we're going to have Sister Jenna later in the year, and she's really amazing. So it's always fun for us to have guests, but I like the deep dive that we can do when it's just Dave and myself in the studio. And the feedback has been you love that too. So we're happy about that.
I'm still resonating from last week's episode, the forgiveness. And 7 years, I think it's time.
Yeah, it's all right. I get it.
And I didn't want to say it last week because, it was really right in there, but thank you very much for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
That really resonated with me. And I hope it's okay to say it kind of gave me courage.
Yes.
To kind of... Yes. And it kind of put my thing in perspective.
Well,
and I know it's not comparing hurts or whatever, but
I get it. No, I get it. And like when I even get upset about things that don't matter, I think, I've really been through a lot worse. I think I can move past this. Yeah, there's some false strength that we get, from holding on. And gosh, there was something I wanted to say about forgiveness from the last show, and now I can't pull it back. I'm sure I will though, but really to not beat yourself over the head and know that it's really okay, and that when you're ready to forgive, you will.
Yeah. So, but thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah. I think that show is. My hope is it's going to resonate with people because it's real life stuff, and we all have things happen. Yeah. I've got a family member right now, a nephew who's really struggling, and it's like he's always, blaming. And it's like, yep, those things happen, but what are you going to do now? Yeah, we have a family member as well who's just seems to be making the same bad decisions over and over. And it's like, at what point do you have to kind of remove yourself from the situation to kind of protect yourself? Anyway, that's not really what we're talking about today. I get it. Yeah. Well, in a way it is because we didn't do our shout out either.
Yeah, we didn't do our shout out.
We got right into it,
We did. We just jumped in, both feet. We are ready to go. We got our coffee. We are good to go. But first, we are giving a shout out to another northern country. We are shouting out to Norway.
Is it Norway?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I had it wrong.
Well, last week it was Finland.
Okay.
Then it was Did I tell you the wrong one?
I thought it was Denmark.
It was Denmark.
Okay, well, Norway it is.
How about Denmark next week?
Okay, Norway it is.
Norway it is. I wish I knew how to say hello in Norwegian.
I know, right? I've known a few Norwegians, and I'm going to tell you, some of the nicest people I've ever met. Very kind, very generous, and actually they were quite tall. I don't know.
We had our Heritage Sunday at CCU a few weeks ago, and I forget who came dressed up in Norwegian, like traditional Norwegian garb. It was great.
Fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Was a lot of fun. Yeah, we had everything from African queens and princesses to, yes.
I wore my Deutschland shirt.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. And I wore some of my special Cherokee things, and I did a couple songs, native chants. That was a lot of fun.
But it was great seeing the Norwegian, and she looked like, the that kind of northern
Traditional.
Nordic kind of milkmaid kind of vibe,
Yes.
And she had a picture of her, I think it was her mother or grandmother, and
Yes.
wearing like the same dress. It was fantastic. So shout out to Norway, and I will think of the movie Frozen on your behalf.
Yes. Well, today's show is called Getting Back on Track. And I don't know about you all, but man, some days I think, God, I got to just get back on track. I wanted to call the show that because that's how I felt earlier today with one of my practices. And it's amazing how when life happens, we can feel kind of just derailed. Like we're going along, everything's cool, and something happens, it's like, and we find ourselves, watching too much TV or checking out with our phone.
Eating too many snacks.
Eating too many brownies. Okay, be quiet. Okay, we did eat some brownies, but...
Not those kind of brownies.
Yeah, no.
Just regular.
I've actually never had any of that. I've never inhaled.
Neither have I. No,
That's
I've
right.
never smoked a cigarette. I'm so straight edge, man.
Oh, well, I have smoked a cigarette, but never a joint.
No, never a joint, no drugs. Just some...
Good thing, too, because I found out I'm allergic to it. So it's a darn good thing I never did. That would have been doubly bad, doubly karmic.
No, I'm not going to lie. If it's medicinally legal here. I've thought, with my back stuff,
Well, definitely CBD oil for sure, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we were talking about getting back on track and not using drugs, Dave. We were talking about getting back on track, and on the journey, it's up and down, and it ebbs and flows, and it's unrealistic to think that maybe we don't get off track. When life sends us a curveball, and it sends us curveballs, can I have an amen?
Amen.
And it's important not to shame ourselves for that. One of the things I have worked with people over so many years, and they're consistent things in human behavior. One is when things seem to go wrong, again, from the third dimensional level, things seem to go wrong, we say, what did I do wrong? And then it doesn't take long before we're blaming ourselves, before even depression sets in. And because now we are all so plugged in, it's easy to check out with your device. It's easy to have your depression come out as passive-aggressive behaviors on social media, by yelling at people via emails. When that stuff is happening, something's trying to come forward, to get you to really process your feelings. And instead, you're doing everything, you can to not process, when in fact, what you're doing is, having no boundaries, sharing your process all over Kingdom Come, and you don't even realize it. And you're not really dealing with what's up. So I just want to encourage you, if you find yourself in some of these behaviors that are not very healthy, rather than shaming yourself and feeling bad about it and continuing them, to work at coming out of that, come out of those behaviors, get back on track. And sometimes I just say to myself, literally, okay, I got to get back on track. Mm-hmm. I've got to turn everything off. I've got to sit down. I've got to, I've got to be quiet. I've got to, and one thing for me, this is strange, drink a lot of water. I've got to flush my system. I've got to put on some inspiring music that gets me going. So I wanted to talk about that because it's so important to have tools, to have things easily accessible that inspire you to do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether it's like for me, have you ever seen that movie Contact?
I love that movie. Jodie Foster.
Yeah, that machine at the end is super complicated. It's kind of all whirring around, and there's all these moving rings upon rings upon rings upon rings that are all this. It's this like symphony of machine and engineering, and it's moving perfectly. But then one little thing happens, like one part gets misaligned and the whole thing just comes unraveled.
Right, it kind of explodes.
It does, yeah.
That's what I thought.
And just one thing goes sideways and then suddenly the whole machine breaks down. And I got to tell you, that happens time and time again, whether it's my creative flow, whether it's exercise and diet, or whether it's feeling inspired and self-disciplined to do whatever. Mm-hmm. Everything seems to be going along swimmingly, and then suddenly life happens, and before I know it, instead of this well-oiled machine, now I'm exploding into different parts, and I have such a hard time getting all those parts back together and moving again. And so that's where I find myself across multiple, multiple aspects, whether, like I said, creative or eating right or whatever.
Yeah, and that is exactly the feeling. It's like, wow, how did that just happen? And it can be from anything. It can be honestly not getting enough sleep. You find yourself off track. You you realize you're overreacting to small things. Somebody says excuse me, and you go, hey, what were you doing there?
Yeah, and I know I'm coming out of this this kind of creative desert, and we talked about the Super Bowl stuff and how all that shook down.
Right.
And it really took me a couple of months to realize that had kind of a profound impact on my my creative confidence.
I bet. Yeah.
On one level, it's like, yeah, it's the business, brr. But yeah, coming out of those kind of doldrums, it's like the long dark journey of my creative soul. Sometimes it's the holidays. Or going on vacation for a week, and
it is, and yes, it's like something changes your pattern, and depending on what your personality style may be, you might do very, very well with the pattern disrupt, or you may not. And I've discovered I do not do well. A few weeks ago, I had some family, and it was such a great time. But after they left, I found it took me a little bit to get back on track, and we had wonderful time. I did, spiritual work, but it just was not the same. I wasn't as grounded. I really wanted to support them, and I really wanted them to have a great time. And so I may have overextended a bit. And so,
yeah, I'm definitely an object in motion tends to stay in motion, or the idea of the terminal flywheel. Once you get it going, it goes. But so that's I feel you across multiple dimensions.
Yeah. And so, so one of the things I've created for myself, I love to create playlists for different things. As a matter of fact, when now I'm not going to the barn right now. I don't have a good barn. I don't own, my horse passed away several years ago, and I leased a horse for a while. But when I was driving out to see my horse, it was pretty far. And so I created a playlist going to the barn and then coming home. And so going to the barn, the energy started really big, and then it got more and more inward, because when I work with horses, my energy needs to be very, very contained and very conscious and very, I don't want to use the word controlled, but contained might be the right word. And horses, are so sensitive that they can actually sense where you are emotionally, physically, etc., at a quarter mile away. They can smell you a quarter mile away. So I had a powerful teacher who said to me, from a quarter mile, your horse knows how you're going to show up.
So your energy needs to be set.
Yes. And so I had it worked out where my playlist ended about like 5 to 10 minutes before getting to the barn where the horse was. So I realized it might have sounded like bar, to the barn where my horse was. And the whole last little bit, I started doing deeper breathing and becoming more conscious of my feelings, and then just like releasing any negative energy. And when I did that, boy, the horse's response was so clean and clear. And there's this saying that my teacher shared with me. He said, however you are, your horse will instantly say, me too. Me too. And so if I was centered and grounded in myself, I went and got my horse, and, she was just chewing, calmly, and all was well, and was happy to get on her lead rope and come to where I groomed her. And if I was not, well, she had lots of energy and wanted to know what was next, so anyway, but I'm saying all of that, it relates, because the playlist would help me get the right energy on board for whatever situation I was going into. So if I'm feeling off track, I have a playlist, and I have a playlist called RCA Inspiration, because most people here call me RCA, and I'm really trying to own that. RCA Inspiration. There's one called RCA Jams. There's another one called RCA Meditation. I have a whole folder of specialty. RCA Faves is another one. And there's an eclectic songs on each of the playlists, and it's like almost instant. Just when I start to listen to one of those, my mood lifts, and I'm like, oh yeah. And one of the songs that's it's a really funny song. I mean, I never would have imagined playing it and the impact it has on me. But one of our members, named Rainbow, introduced me to this song. What's it called? By Little Mix, called Wings. And we'll put a link in the show notes. And it's in my RCA Jams playlist. And that song is so fun because the words are start out, Mama told me not to waste my life. She said, spread your wings, your little butterfly, or something. Don't let what they say keep you up at night. It's like that. And then, you're going to fly, whatever. And so it's like, oh yeah, it's like a really good dance tune. So I can't feel bad listening to it. So even though it's it's just a pop song, every time I hear it, it like lifts my spirits. I go, yeah, I can do this. I don't need to pay attention to, to negativity. I got this. And it's like all of a sudden my soul goes, let's go, So, and sometimes it's a powerful, like, African drumming song. It's like, oh yeah, man, I needed to be grounded. I needed to hear those drums. So I want to encourage you, if you get off track, have ways like ready, for what you need. Because you may not like this song by Little Mix, but you might need to go to a movie, strange as that sounds. You might need to walk in a park for an hour, or go fishing, or whatever.
Right, or go lift weights.
Yeah, or go for a motorcycle ride.
Right. I have a playlist called Roar, and it's just like Roar, and it's all like music that like. It's music to crank your throttle to, basically.
Yeah,
and when I got my motorcycle, I created this Spotify playlist.
Yes.
And it's like, 9 Inch Nails and Rage Against the Machine and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Just it feels good on a motorcycle.
It does. Well, and again, the journey should be fun.
Right.
And we talked so much about the deep work, and the last show was deep and kind of intense on forgiveness. And it's like, yeah, and that's all there too. But you need to laugh, and you need to, and sometimes to get back on track, you just need to hang out with friends.
Yeah.
Hang out with people that love you, that no matter what are going to be in your corner, and reach out. So many people right now I talk to are trying to do the journey alone. They don't know that there's friends. They don't know that there's meetup groups. They don't know that there's support groups. So friends, find your support, and find it when life is going well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's it's sometimes it's as simple as throwing something out on Facebook. Hey, I'm making ramen. Who wants to come over?
Who wants noodles?
Right, exactly.
Actually, I do. I'm going to make that for dinner.
Like actual ramen, or just a little cake?
Oh, no, like real noodles.
Right.
I'm just messing with you. No, exactly right. Finding a way to connect.
Yeah, and
finding a way to connect.
And I know that sometimes I felt like nobody wants to hang out with me.
I do.
But why don't I put myself out there?
Exactly.
Why don't I say, hey, I would love to hang out with somebody? And I found that more often than not, people totally want to hang out.
People totally want to hang out. Yeah. Right. So getting back on track, friends, it's going to require you to take responsibility for your journey. Okay. I'm going to say that again. Getting back on track, friends, you will have to be responsible for your journey. Taking responsibility by, number one, even knowing where you are. And then number two, as Dave is saying, reaching out.
And allowing people to speak encouragement into your life.
Or if you've been with too many people, is to get quiet. That earlier today, I had that. The first thing I needed to do was turn off the TV and my phone that I was doing at the same time. And I had a great call with a friend, which was a lot of fun. And she's amazing and doing a lot of neat things in the world. So I actually got just inspired, talking to her and getting to support her. And then it was like, okay, before you do another thing, you need to journal, and you need to journal how you feel, because you're stuck. You're really stuck right now in your emotions. And so it only took about 15 minutes to turn it around. And it was to journal and to breathe. And I did my 7 minutes of my deep, pranayama breathing. I journaled how I felt. I looked at my goals and visions, and I was like, "Oh yeah!" And then I turned on my RCA jams, my tunes, and listened to Little Mix, and then I was really, "Oh yeah!"
I need to know what other songs. Is it like Tootsie Roll and songs like that?
Oh no! Another song is actually a native song. It's called Eulalie, and or maybe that's the band, and the song is called Mother. Oh, it is intense. It's just drumming, and these women, yeah. I mean, it is total intense. And then there's another song that's on there. Oh man,
This is a Spotify playlist, right?
It could be. It could be. I guess we could make it. I use iTunes just because I don't know. Spotify doesn't seem to like me. I don't know. I try so hard. Oh, one of my favorite ones on here is the Modest Yahoo Star on the Rise. Yes. And also Modest Yahoo and Common Kings do a song called Broken Crowns. And then MC Yogi's song, Ganesh is Fresh. And that has a feature too of Jai Tal. And then there's another song on here by MC Yogi called Road Home. And then I love Rag and Bone Man and his song Grace.
See, your songs are all these really like spiritual songs.
Oh no! And
right?
then
And I'm like Uninvited by Alanis Morissette.
No. And then there's that song Mother by Eulalie, and then there's that song No Roots by Alice Merton. So we'll share this, and then there's a great song by Canton Jones called Won't He Do It, and that was playing right before I got here. And
if you'll send me a screenshot of that playlist, I'll try to see if I can't put something together on Spotify.
Hot Damn by the Shadowboxers.
I don't feel quite so bad.
And then This Is Me by Shoshana Bean. So we'll put it on there. But man,
is that the from The Greatest Showman? This Is Me?
No, it's the original version.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's the original version, which is real different. And it's Shoshana Bean. I first saw it as a dance. Shoshana Bean is singing and there's a dancer, and they do a great YouTube video. So I'd love to put the YouTube up, because for every view they give a certain amount of money to the LGBTQ Center. I want to say it's in Hollywood, California, but it's a great version of that song. And it's a lot more acoustic. It's got like cello.
But is it the same song?
It is.
Song?
Sorry, it's the same song by Shoshana Bean, and it's really, really good. I'd love to interview her for the show. It's a great version of the song. So yeah, we'll get you that. But I want to encourage you, friends, to, it's funny because first I had to journal and get totally quiet. And then when I put this playlist on, yeah.
Drop the needle.
Yes, drop the needle, baby. Well, I'll tell you one other thing I listen to, too, that inspires me. So we will take a break and we'll come right back.
We'll return to the program in just a few minutes, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, CCU Orlando, who has helped make this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey possible. CCU Orlando is a welcoming community dedicated to transforming lives, celebrating diversity, and supporting soul growth. CCU Orlando is located at 771 Holden Avenue in Orlando, Florida, with Sunday services at 9 and 11 a.m. You can stream services live online as well as learn more at christchurchunity.net. We'd also like to thank Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. And finally, we'd like to extend our special thanks to Unity of Nashville, a sister ministry of CCU Orlando. If you're searching for a like-minded church community and a personal connection that supports your heart and mind in the Central Tennessee area, then join Unity of Nashville at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning at 5125 Franklin Pike. For more information, head over to unityofnashville.org. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Welcome back. I just realized just talking about that playlist, I got really invigorated.
I wanted to share some of mine. I have like "Sabotage" by the Beastie Boys and "Lose Yourself" by Eminem.
Nice.
And some Deadmau5 and some Skrillex and some LMFAO and Rush, of course, YYZ.
Yeah, of course.
You have to have Tom Sawyer and YYZ. I could not call myself a self-respecting drummer and not have Rush in a playlist. So,
yeah.
Yeah, man, playlists are I think it's really important. It's important to have music that you love.
Yeah.
And like every single one of these songs, every single one that comes on, I'm like, I love this song.
Yeah.
And the next one, I love this song. And then another one, I love this song. And I think it's really good. And whether it's YouTube or iTunes or Spotify or whatever, makes it really easy. And so to soundtrack your life, you don't need the Spotify editors or the Apple Music editors to put those playlists together for you.
I know. Well, actually, I was going to mention that because I always feel kind of strange trusting somebody else's playlist. My consciousness is somebody else's playlist.
Yeah, and I think it's different if I'm hosting a dinner party, so here's some cocktail jazz. That's one thing. But if you're looking for music that is specifically
really inspiring,
and spend some time with it because music charms the soul, and it really resonates. And of course, we're both musicians, and so we have a very biased opinion about that. But I think it's important.
The other thing that's important to me that always makes me feel really grounded is to play vinyl. To literally drop the needle. And there are a couple albums I always come back to, and one is my friend. His trio is called OJT. That stands for Organ Jazz Trio. My friend Ken Laverne has a great album, OJT, and the cover art is gorgeous, and the album itself is even like this cool green. He's a great jazz B3 player and band leader, and has done a lot of great work in the Kansas City area. Making jazz just super accessible. And at the club where he is, I'm always impressed at the wide variety of ages that are there listening to his music. Well, recently I moved, and in my new home, one of the first things I did was play his album, and it just felt so good. I felt like I was coming home. And for me, like coming home to myself. And for me, music is such a part of that. And I'm such a lover of jazz and classical that... And those were so much of my beginnings in music were jazz and classical. I grew up on those, and show tunes, I should say, as well, which have all those influences. And it just makes me feel at home. So getting back on track, friends, for me is very connected to music, but also silence. Those two things. It's funny because one is putting a lot of things in your consciousness, and one is removing everything. But only you can know yourself, and what for you might be good in one situation, may not be in another. So getting back on track, again, there's nothing wrong if you feel like you're off track, but by all means, don't stay there. It's like I had a friend that would say, the Bible says to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Don't stay there.
Right.
And so it's easy to get really off track, to get kind of, I think of it kind of blown off center, derailed is the way I think of it. It's like I'm going along. If something happens, I go, whoa. And so if I'm not careful, I know I can read the news. I just heard news of another shooting. I'm like, it was just heartbreaking. And, I'm trying to already take in two things at once. And then that news comes in, and then I'm not as rested. I'm, like I say, doing double duty on the devices. That's bad for me. That is bad for me.
Yeah. One of the things that Shannon and I are doing, we went on vacation last month, and we do a lot of reading on vacation. It's been a while. It's been a couple years since we just went away for a week.
Right.
And so
I remember
we left the laptops at home and took our iPads
great.
and our phones and stuff, but we weren't going to do any work. And so one of the things that always happens is we start to read a lot more.
Exactly.
And so we've made a conscious effort to, at night, we'll turn off the TV, and I will turn off the news. I will just absorb all politics and stuff, and I've talked about that before.
Oh yeah.
But instead of reading that, and it's just like silly Star Trek books, right? Right, on my little iPad Kindle app, but it's silly Star Trek book, so it's not like I'm reading David Copperfield or anything that's
Right.
necessarily enriching my spirit. It's just silly Star Trek books, but it's been a real difference. I feel like I'm resting better. I feel like I'm getting
Yeah.
a better night's sleep because I'm not ingesting news and political commentary right up until I close my iPad and go and shut my eyes and fall asleep. And so I'm also falling asleep faster.
I bet.
Like
Yeah, I bet.
I'll start reading around 9:30 or so, and by 10:30, I'm done. I'm out.
I was going to say too. I have a wonderful naturopathic doctor I worked with, and she talked to me pretty in depth about the blue screen and how damaging actually that can be on the eyes, and how it can keep you too alert at night. And there's even I wish I could remember what I had to download, but there's actually an app to change your screen. You can change the brightness, I think, on iPhones, but there's an app that makes it even more adjustable.
Right, and I know like later iPads and phones will actually change the screen tint and all of that.
Yeah,
to reduce that.
it actually, I can't find it right now, but it actually does really help, so that if you are on your computer a lot, you can even do that. But you're right, to unplug completely. And my new rule for myself is, no phones and devices in bed. It's too much. I need to unplug. I just know myself. I have to be, for me to be feeling really on point and on track, there's a few really basic things I need. I need good sleep. I need really good food, a lot of water, and a daily spiritual practice. Well, and some kind of exercise.
I would say time outdoors.
Yeah.
For you.
Oh, yes.
For
Time
you.
outdoors. Did I not say that?
You didn't, but
that's a no-brainer.
but yeah.
That's every day.
Yep.
I got to be outside. And often barefoot. I'm just a new person when I'm outside barefoot, although, got to be careful. But with where you're going. But getting back on track, friends, the reason I wanted to talk about this is such basic things that get us back on track. We think there's like some big thing we have to do or some big book we have to read. There's time for your spiritual work, and there's time to just go, man, I'm out of it. You don't have to try to like spiritualize your way out of it. Just like, get yourself back on track. Call a friend, listen to music, do something that supports you. And again, I want to encourage you now to make a list of 10 support people. And you might say, that's a lot, maybe 5. That's fine. But there's probably about, I do have 10 on my list, but there's 5 real close people I know I could call anytime, day or night, and they would always be there for me. I know it, 100%. They've all told me that. How do I know? Because I've said, I'm going to create a support list for myself. And when I do this, are you willing to be on it? And every single person, when I asked them, the first thing they said was, absolutely. I don't know what it means, but the answer is yes. I said, well, here's what it means. It means if there's something going on with me and I just need a reminder that, I need lifting up, that I can call you anytime. And they were like, oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, here's another number. Make sure you have this number too. Everybody was so willing to be my support. Of course, I asked people super close to me I'd known for a really long time. So I want you to think about this, friends. And I want you to do it now while things are going good. And if they're not going too well right now, you should know who your people are, reach out to them and tell them what's going on. I don't want you to go through this alone. I want you to get support.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this grand gesture. Getting back on track doesn't have to be like yanking the steering wheel as hard as you can. If you need to get back on track with exercise or diet, then just go for a walk. Go for a 10-minute, 15-minute walk. If it's about not, trying not to feel isolated, then maybe it's just asking someone to a coffee, or to lunch after church or something.
Like you said, ramen.
Yeah, or come over to my house and we'll split 85 cents worth of ramen.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, especially at CCU Orlando, we have such a special spiritual community. However you come in there, man, you're going to be loved and honored for who you are. So spiritual community is so healing and can be so special. And just to walk in and know that you're going to be loved is important. I also want to mention as we're talking about moving your body, there might be a need for you, especially if you find yourself continuing to get off track. Sometimes we think things to death and we think if I can just, think it to death, it'll be okay. And what we really need is to move our bodies. I really feel that so many of us are not, myself included, we don't always act in our own best interest by not taking care of because we're not taking care of our bodies. So sometimes we need a trainer. Sometimes we need, like Dave said, just to go outside and do a walk. We even may need to have a furry animal at home that loves us no matter what. It loves us no matter what. So I want you to just consider that, friends. And again, especially if things are going well, have some things in place if they're not going well, you can go to in a pinch and get relifted up.
Yeah, it's kind of like, having a relationship with your doctor, when everything's okay, not that way you're not going to the emergency room, every time something happens.
Yeah, and also, if you're in a recovery program, I want to mention this because so many people that listen to us are in recovery. It's really important that you attend meetings on a regular basis. You don't just wait till things are going bad. And what's nice about recovery too is no matter what, you can always find a meeting and you can always get support and you can always, reach out. But you want to make sure that somebody's guiding you along the journey, that you're working with a sponsor, that you're, receiving the right support so that if you get off track, you have one person you can reach out to. Yeah, it's super, super important. And again, getting back on track, we know you can do it. If you're off track, don't worry. It's part of the journey. Don't shame yourself. Just see what you need to get back on track. Here's why I'm saying all of this. Every show we do is about reawakening consciousness, right? And so the more we are walking through the world in our awakened state, the better the world is. And my belief is the world needs our light right now, wow, more than ever before. So I feel almost a spiritual mandate I call it lovingly to myself, getting my game face on. It's like, okay, get out of your doldrums, get your game face on, and get to it. Sometimes I have to talk to myself that way, but I know that there's something for me to do. So if you're walking around on planet Earth right now, there is something for you to do, and it's good, and it's loving, and it's peaceful, and you need to be about that. So if you're off track, the reason you want to get back on, the world needs you. It's that simple. I didn't speak about the power of prayer, and I want to. We talk about so much about all those spiritual things, but I want to mention Silent Unity that's available to you 24/7. Silent Unity is available 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 1-800-NOW-PRAY is the number for Silent Unity. And they can also pray with you in Spanish as well as English. And it is such a gift to the world, Unity's prayer ministry. And again, it's called Silent Unity. The headquarters are in Unity Village, Missouri, which is just outside of Lee Summit, which is very near Kansas City. And there are a prayer worker standing by always. And there's even an app you can get called You Pray, capital Pray, and you can even put in a written request. Now, as good as I think that is, and there are times for that, sometimes, friends, we need the voice of another human being.
And so that's somebody will answer that. It's not just
somebody will answer.
It's a prayer. It's not just you leave it there and
right.
then they submit it. It's an actual person you get to talk to.
Yeah, that's right. So I want to really encourage you, if you feel like you're off track, go, hey, I'm going to get back on track. It's okay. And again, forgive yourself. And move on, but do what you need to do. Take responsibility for what you're here to do, get back on track, and give your gift to the world. We know if you're listening to this show, you care deeply about your life and about your soul, and that you are wanting to give your gifts to the world. So our hope for you, our prayer for you is that you do the work that's needed to get yourself back on track so that you can give, what you have to the world. So we thank you so much for joining us for this show, and we honor you on the journey as always. And again, if there's something we can say, if there's some topic that you need that you haven't heard yet, let us know. Our goal is to support you. Our goal is to lift you up and help you move forward on the journey.
I just wanted to say one more thing about kind of getting into a community. If you're, let's say you don't have a church home, I would strongly encourage you to just go to church. And this is coming from someone who at some point in my life, I never thought I would darken the door of another church again. Yep. Right. And it doesn't have to be, CCU Orlando. It could be in any church home. I think Unity is extremely open and loving, and they will accept you for who you are, regardless of if you're wearing flip-flops or
a three-piece suit.
Right, exactly. And so I would strongly encourage you to go to church, or let's say not a church, local meetups for interests. Let's say you like video games, or you like reading. There are book clubs and stuff that are completely free, completely open, and just start surrounding yourself with love and with like-minded people who are open and willing to kind of pour into you. And I think you'll be surprised at how easy it can be to find folks that will encourage you and that will support you on your journey.
Yes. And as well as Unity, I would also mention Center for Spiritual Living. Those are also some wonderful communities, lots of New Thought communities available to you. I would also mention there might be some wonderful Hindu and Buddhist communities as well that tend to be very open to newcomers, and they are working, at a very deep level on spiritual practices. So we hope you've enjoyed the show. It was fun for us. It was fun for me to share a playlist, and those are going to be in the show notes.
We're going to have all kinds of links to all these playlists and
all
videos.
These great songs.
This is going to be a very musical show notes.
All right. So again, thank you for joining us, dear friend, and we'll see you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey, presented by CCU Orlando, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Unity of Nashville. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Dove Borland, Peter Gibson, Paul Caswell, J.J. Hamilton, Arlene Meyer, Kathy and Terry, Marcia Mott, and Nora Miles. If you would like to support the channel as a patron on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. And if you enjoy this podcast, help spread the word by sharing it with your friends and leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, or the platform of your choice. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2019 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.